There's a magnificent beast who roams this earth. For millions of years, he's been running for his life. The horse, a proud and beautiful creature who gallops like the wind and alone has the strength of many men. Despite appearances, the horse is a timid creature. He lives in constant fear because he's a prey animal. In Bullett's mind, he's surrounded by predators. The horse's body is designed to minimize his vulnerability. Bullet has thin legs, so that when he's grazing, he can still see all around him. His long head keeps his eyes well above the grass. For a prey animal, there are no second chances. Run first, think later is the golden rule. In nature, there is a fundamental divide between animals that hunt and those that are hunted. As prey, Star has evolved a sophisticated early warning system to protect himself. His first line of defense is his exceptional eyesight. Star's eyes are positioned on the sides of his head. This gives him a panoramic field of vision, perfect for scanning the horizon for predators. He can survey an amazing 340 of the 360 degrees around him. But there is a price to pay for this widescreen picture of the world. Because they're so far apart, each eye sees a separate picture, a bit like the wing mirrors on either side of a vehicle. Star has two narrow blind spots, one immediately in front of him, the other directly behind. Like most horses, Star is startled when he's approached head-on, since people seem to disappear just before they touch him. This blind spot has surprising implications. Just James's owner might think twice about urging him to jump if she could see through his eyes. 2 meters before James reaches the crossbar, it disappears from his view, but to compensate, his brain has memorized the obstacle's position, and he sails over blind. A horse's eyes have to be fantastically sensitive to movement. The minutest flicker, even in the very corner of his eye, will immediately command his attention. Once distracted, James forgets where the jump is. For all horses, there's nothing better than being on the move. Horses are by nature nomadic animals. Bullett's wild ancestors would have roamed freely across the plains looking for food and water, covering up to 50 kilometers a day. 60 million years ago, the earliest horses were no larger than dogs. As their habitat changed from swampy forest to exposed savanna, they grew bigger and taller, enabling them to see predators from a long way off. The horse evolved into a swift prairie animal. Bullet's hooves and legs are beautifully adapted to crossing uneven ground, and his sense of balance is so fine that despite his large bulk, he can move quickly even down steep inclines. Horses prefer open spaces. They're happiest when they can see all around, and every option of escape remains open. More than any other domestic animal, the horse now lives in a completely alien world. This new lifestyle is potentially very stressful. Inside a stable, a horse is deprived of fresh air, company, and freedom. Silky can't see a friend approaching or run from an enemy. She can't exercise or even feed when she wants to. As a herbivore, the horse is designed to eat low-grade fibrous food like hay and grass, and he needs plenty to get enough nourishment. A horse can consume up to 15 kilos of vegetation a day. Because a prey animal must be ready to run at a moment's notice, a big, full stomach could be a handicap. So a horse's stomach is relatively tiny. To get enough energy in natural conditions, he has to eat almost constantly, around 20 hours a day. Stabled horses like Globe Runner soon munch their way through a small hay net. The rest of his daily nutrition comes from 4 concentrated feeds. Grain and molasses may give him all the energy he needs, but because his digestive system is designed to work around the clock, he still feels hungry much of the time. And since eating is one of the things that keeps horses occupied, confined horses often become bored and develop bad habits, like sucking in air to fill their uncomfortably empty stomachs. Just because horses are born to run doesn't mean they are born to be ridden. Before a horse will cooperate with humans, she has to be broken in. Silky is 2 years old and destined to become a racehorse. She gets her first few lessons in the confinement of her stall. It's a safer environment because if she panics, she can't go very far. Even with reassurance, a horse doesn't take naturally to being ridden. Put a saddle on her back, and all that goes through Silky's mind is that a predator has pounced on her most vulnerable place. Her instinct is telling her to run for her life. Breaking in used to mean literally breaking an animal's spirit. It was a frightening experience for a horse. But in recent years, human understanding of horses has become more sympathetic. Increasingly, this process is less a battle of wills than a period of gradual learning for the horse. A few minutes every day, and Silky will realize that the strange routine her rider puts her through may seem pointless, but at least it's no threat to her well-being. For all horses, there is another hurdle to overcome before they can be productive partners with humans. Like any horse who often walks on hard man-made surfaces, Victoria's feet need protection. Hooves are like human fingernails. They're always growing. In the wild, a horse's feet would wear naturally as she travelled over both rocks and grassland. But Victoria's hooves wear down quicker than they can grow. At first, the process of being shod can be worrying for a horse, because having her feet and legs handled doesn't come naturally. As a flight animal, they are her most precious asset. This process might look like it hurts, but it's actually painless. In her lifetime, Victoria will get through more than 150 sets of shoes. Being prey controls every aspect of the horse's life. After more than 11 months of pregnancy, Holly is nearly ready to give birth. Lions and wolves may not be a threat anymore, but Holly's prey instincts still tell her it's safest to be on her own and hidden by darkness. Over 90% of foals are born at night. So that Holly doesn't know she's being spied on, her stall has been fitted with a television camera, and around her neck is an alarm that will alert her owners when she goes into labour. So strong is the need to be alone that all mares have evolved a little understood mechanism which allows them to postpone giving birth. It's a trick Holly has used before to outwit her human owners. If she feels under threat, her body releases adrenaline, which is thought to inhibit the birth process. Holly can delay for a couple of days if necessary. Only when she feels completely safe will she go into labour. But in one way, domestic mares are more at risk when giving birth than their wild ancestors. If Holly doesn't get help when she goes into labour, her unborn foal could be in real danger. Whilst humans are asleep, life for the horse continues as normal. As prey, Monty can never be caught off guard, even at night. So his eyesight is sensitive enough to see by starlight. He can do everything he does in the daytime, almost as well in the dark. Horses need very little sleep, only around 4 hours a day, and rather than one long rest, they take lots of short naps. It's rare to see a horse lying down. Not only does this increase his vulnerability, but his weight against the ground makes breathing difficult. So horses have special ligaments designed to hold their legs upright without muscle tension. This allows them to sleep on their feet, ready for a quick getaway. It's 4 o'clock in the morning and Holly has gone into labour. Horses give birth with lightning speed. The whole process is usually over in a matter of minutes. It's crucial that Holly's owner is on the scene immediately. Domesticated horses often need human help during birth. As a result of the high-protein diet which they are fed, the amniotic sac containing the foal is sometimes too tough for the young animal to kick his way out of. If Holly's owner isn't there to help, there's a chance that the foal could be smothered. A newborn foal must develop in the fast lane. Unlike kittens and puppies who need the warmth of their mother's body to stay alive, a foal controls his body temperature from the moment he is born. He immediately begins to shiver to generate heat. Holly is checking her newborn foal and getting to know his smell. This scent bonding is essential because it will be a while before the foal can distinguish his mother from other horses. In a few hours it will be light. For the foal, his urgent priority is to learn to walk. He may be perfectly safe, but without such rapid development, his wild ancestors wouldn't have stood a chance. They may be a little shaky, but finally the foal's legs give him the support he needs. Less than 20 minutes old, and he's already well on the road to being independently mobile. A horse can not only see most of the world around him, he can also hear it, and all without moving his head. Although a horse's hearing is not as sensitive as that of a cat or a dog, it is far superior to humans and provides a fantastically detailed picture of his surroundings. 16 muscles enable a horse to move each of his ears independently. They act like radars, constantly scanning the world around him.
Good to that. Freshly made.
A few rotations, and he can pinpoint the exact whereabouts of a sound, even when the source is a long way away. Horses can also detect a greater range of sounds than humans, at both the higher and lower ends of the frequency scale. One of the great advantages of mobile ears over fixed ones is that horses can focus their hearing on the noises which are most important to them, and block out those which aren't. Bullet is filtering out the uninteresting sound of the radio playing and homing in on the welcome noise of his tack being prepared. This skill would help horses in the wild to detect predators, even through the sound of the wind on a stormy day. Today, it lets Bullet know that it's time to go for a ride. Every horse is born to run, but Globe Runner has been bred to race. His blood ancestors can be traced back through many generations. Every thoroughbred racehorse alive today is descended from just 3 stallions imported to England more than 200 years ago. Globe Runner is in training, Every day he comes to the track for a 15-minute workout. It's just about the only exercise he gets. So when he's locked in the gate, he's wound up like a coiled spring. And when the moment comes, he's ready to explode. Globe Runner can easily accelerate faster than your average car, and he can reach a top speed of 45 miles per hour. There may be faster animals on Earth, but none who combine speed with endurance as efficiently as the horse. Nature has given the horse the perfect physique for galloping. A heart which weighs up to 6 kilograms, and lungs whose extensive surface area could cover an Olympic swimming pool. These supply large quantities of oxygen to huge muscles concentrated in the shoulders and hind quarters. Globe Runner's entire body weight is propelled through the slender bones of his lower legs to give maximum propulsion. All the strain ultimately passes through a single toe. As he races towards the finish line, his heartbeat has soared from 40 beats per minute to over 250. A similar leap would kill a human. There's no victory celebration for Globe Runner this afternoon. He was pipped at the post by Lucky Boy. After the race, Globe Runner needs to cool down slowly. The huge effort of galloping flat out for nearly 2 kilometers will have consumed so much energy that he needs to take it easy for the remainder of the day. In the wild, a horse would almost never run like this, since a predator would give up after a much shorter distance. Holly's foal Ringo is now 1 day old, and he's about to take his first tentative steps into the outside world. He's a little wobbly on his feet, but it can take a human baby a year or more to get this far. He looks gangly and out of proportion because his legs are almost as long as his mother's. Ringo must now learn to be a horse. For the next 6 weeks of his life, he'll stick close, watching his mother and taking all his cues from her. He's keen to develop his speed and coordination. Like any baby, Ringo instinctively knows that from his mother's side, the world can be explored in safety. As youngsters become more independent of their mothers, they learn new skills through playing with others. These curious yearlings need to sharpen the natural response which tells them to flee. Just as kittens and puppies play at being predators by pouncing on moving objects, So foals practice being prey by spooking each other and running away. One of the most frightening things that could happen to a horse is to be left alone. His whole existence revolves around his herd. Without companions, he'd be lost, and more importantly, vulnerable. There's safety in numbers. Living in a herd is crucial to a horse's security. For large herbivores who spend most of the day with their heads down to eat, it makes sense to have lookouts. A herd works as a team. The more eyes, ears and noses there are to detect predators, the better. Wherever there's a horse grazing, there'll be another keeping watch. For horses, social skills are survival skills, and they have developed an elaborate and subtle body language to convey their feelings and needs to the rest of the herd. Ringo is slowly learning this language. The different postures of the other horses tell him much about the mood of the herd. If a horse is excited, he is upright and lifted. Tense and alert, he pricks up his ears in the direction of interest. It's an infectious posture, like shouting, "Hey everyone, look over there." A droopy head says this mare is relaxed. And these horses are getting agitated because, just as they can't stand to be alone, horses don't like being overcrowded either. Grazing horses would naturally keep a body length between themselves and the next animal. So a quick flick of the tail means, back off, you're in my space. Most horses are respectful. They don't need to be told twice. Horses are peace-loving creatures, and much of their communication is based on avoiding serious confrontation. Internal scraps could leave the herd open to attack, so threatening behavior, rather than actual fighting, keep the group in order. Only when there is competition for resources, such as when there is not enough food to go around, does a true hierarchy emerge. Nancy is the senior mare, and Bullet and his friends know they should wait until she has finished before starting to eat. But Bullet is a rebel, and he's hungry. He knows he shouldn't be doing this, but he really can't resist. When Nancy pins her ears back, she's sending a signal that she's angry, but Bullet and the other horses choose to ignore it. She resorts to stamping her back legs. It's a warning to wait your turn or I'll hurt you. But generally, the herd has to behave in terms of the common good. When danger is spotted, horses run bunched together. In this way, each animal has less chance of being picked off by a predator. Young foals like Ringo are the most at risk in an attack, so he must quickly learn how the herd operates. The herd weaves through the countryside like a single unit, often changing direction and speed. Trying to keep up when you're only 4 months old can be quite a task. In all the confusion, Ringo has lost his mother. In the wild, horses would rarely use vocal signals since a prey animal doesn't want to publicize his whereabouts. Finding himself too close to a fearsome stallion, Ringo uses a submissive gesture. This mouthing is a foal's way of saying, "I'm only a baby and no threat to you." Finally, reunited with his mother, Ringo will be more careful to stick by her in the future. Horses don't necessarily want all the creature comfort that humans seem to find important. Replacing a horse's bedding effectively strips her stable of her smell. Smell is vital to horses for communication. It's how they recognize others and identify their space. Horses lay claim to their home turf by marking it with their odour. In the wild, this would tell other herds to keep their distance. Silky needs familiar scents around her to make her feel secure. She's happier in a stable filled with her own aroma. For Silky, fresh, clean straw just doesn't smell like home. Horse droppings contain a wealth of scent information. Beth is in season, and during this time her urine and dung contain very strong-smelling pheromones. Oranges, the prize stallion, can detect her irresistible perfume from up to 200 meters away. As Beth gets closer, he needs to check the scent information for accuracy. He inhales through his nose and takes the scent-laden air into a special organ in the roof of his mouth, one that humans don't have. This concentrated fragrance drives Oranges wild. He's compelled to follow his instincts and search out Beth. All horses make friends through smell. When they meet, they exchange greetings by breathing deeply into each other's nostrils. Each horse sends an individual message to the other. Beth is showing that she is receptive to Orange's advances. It could be his lucky day. Touch is also an intimate communication tool for horses. Herd members often nibble and groom each other. Just James interprets his owner's tactile attentions as an affirmation of her friendship. It reassures him that he's accepted by the group. He certainly doesn't think it's got anything to do with being clean. All group-living animals have an incentive to communicate and cooperate. This is why a dog who hunts in a pack or a horse who lives in a herd will respond to training. Like all domesticated horses, Star and his friends have extended their ability to communicate with each other towards people. They've allowed humans to become honorary herd members. This is why the horse-human partnership is possible. Just as they try to anticipate the movement of the herd, Star and the others are focused on their trainer, watching and waiting for every instruction. They accept their trainer's authority as they would that of a senior herd member, because one of the things that horses respond to is leadership. They obey the leader not out of fear, but simply because it's best for the herd. Buster is an experienced city police horse. Today he is joined at the training barn by Leroy, a new recruit. Horses are creatures of logic. From their perspective, there's always a good reason for behaving as they do. Leroy is frightened because he can't see what lies beyond the flags. To his mind, anything could be lurking in the dark interior. Police horses are put through an assault course which challenges every natural instinct they possess. Buster is a veteran. He can remain calm even in the most extreme circumstances. But all this is terrifyingly new for Leroy. He can't override the part of his brain which tells him to be wary of unsteady ground. At the front of his mind is the unwritten law, look after your legs, your life may depend on it. Overcoming fear is Leroy's biggest challenge. He needs to discover for himself that in this case, his fears are unfounded. If a horse is bullied into complying, his fear is never alleviated, it's merely suppressed. He couldn't be relied upon in an emergency. As the day progresses, Leroy gradually realizes that the things being asked of him are not as threatening as they first appear. He's starting to develop a relationship with his rider. The strength of bond that has developed will determine how much of a risk the horse is prepared to take. In a real-life situation, these horses and riders have to rely on each other completely. Their lives may depend on it. Leroy has passed the test heroically. He has shown that he has what it takes to become a police horse. If a horse is unsure of his rider, he might resist doing what is asked of him. Jimmy's been picking up on the nervousness of his new passenger all afternoon. He can feel the tension in the rider's posture and grip. Jimmy's nose is so sensitive, he can even smell things that humans cannot, like fear, for example. And when a horse knows that his rider is scared, he understandably loses confidence too. Jimmy's sister, Moonlight, can tell that her owner is relaxed and in control, so she happily sails over. Jimmy, however, is not so sure. The domestic horse's world is completely controlled by people. Even a horse's most natural act is closely chaperoned. Beth is going to be mated with Oranges, the stable stud. To ensure safe sex, this wooden fence protects Oranges. If a mare isn't quite ready to be mounted, she can lash out viciously. One well-aimed kick from Beth could put Oranges out of action for weeks. Left to their own devices, the horse's courtship ritual can take hours, but horse breeders don't allow time for such niceties. Oranges and Beth are allowed to mate in the hope that the winning genes from each parent will be passed on to their offspring. It's a genetic gamble. Copulation is over in a matter of seconds. A prey animal can't afford to be caught with his pants down. Human intervention has produced over 200 different breeds of horses. However, if horses hadn't been domesticated, they might now be extinct. Horses rarely swim from choice, but for Silky, it's a form of physiotherapy. Like all her species, Silky is a survivor. There's no doubt that the horse's adaptability has saved her hide. Evidence suggests that by the end of the last ice age, the number of Silky's wild ancestors was falling dramatically. Rising water levels and the rapid spread of huge forests across the face of the earth were taking away the open plains, which were the horse's natural habitat. Fortunately for horses, their cooperative nature made them useful to humans, thereby ensuring the survival of the species. early man hunted the horse for food and clothes. Later he realized the advantages of 4 legs over 2. Cattle herding was one of the first tasks the horse was required to perform. For the first time in his life, he was chasing rather than being chased. In exchange for his labor, the horse guaranteed himself not only protection, but also a reliable supply of food and water. Today, domestic horses live to an average age of 25 years, twice as long as their wild ancestors. The horse's speed and endurance enabled man to travel in a way that was never possible before. He could explore distant places and discover vastly different cultures. With their destinies closely entwined, horse and man rode off on an extraordinary journey across civilization. For 4,000 years, the horse was the swiftest, most efficient form of transport and communication on the planet. This is the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery based in London. Today their duties include guarding the monarchy and giving ceremonial displays, but originally they were trained for warfare. Throughout history, horses have played a central role in the building and destruction of empires. Horses pulled chariots for the ancient Greeks. Clad in shining armour, they carried medieval knights into battle, and harnessed in teams, they towed artillery in 2 bloody world wars. Until the early part of the 20th century, the power of horses was essential to the entire world economy. The beast of burden is still a necessity in some countries today, but many lead more privileged lives. From the horse's original role as slave to man, for some the tables have turned. Horses have long been worshipped, but in recent years some have even achieved celebrity status. Silky is treated like royalty because she might turn out to be a winner on the racecourse. A lot of money and hope rides on her back. But it isn't only sports horses which find themselves the centre of attention. Just James is simply a best friend and well-loved pet. He's someone to have fun and play games with. Horses satisfy the need to nurture, but they also bestow power on anyone who rides them. They fulfill many a romantic fantasy. Being in the company of horses makes people feel good about themselves. The horse. He's still something of a paradox. He's a prey animal living alongside a predator. He's lost lost his independence, yet he retains his wild spirit. He submits to man's enslavement, but he's also a symbol of dignity and freedom.